Mark Halperin was on the show recently, and
Yes.
he had something interesting to say about you, and it had the ring of truth. I know he's been on your show too. Take a listen to what he reported here on the show. Do you think Pete Hegseth will survive this? And will he survive as defense secretary? Because it's very clear some group of people that's pretty loud is out to get him.
Yeah. So I've got what I call the Trump board of directors. Okay. And the board of directors is Tucker, Charlie Kirk, and Don Jr. And if the board of directors support something, I think generally it happens. And I believe all three of them, I know all three of them have been supportive.
Confirm or deny?
Well, no one tells me when the meetings are. No, of course not. I'm not on a board of directors. No,
he means
there's something
informally
about
that you're like the top advisors on the outside.
No, my gosh. I don't like it when people exert influence secretly. It's better just to say out loud exactly. Because what happened, I've seen it obviously my whole life, is that people become power worshipers really quickly. It's in all of us to kowtow to power, to worship power, to want power, and that's our destruction. So I'm wary of all of that. I mean, I love Trump. I've always, I've definitely gone through phases over the last 20
as have we
plus
all.
years of knowing Trump. But no, there's no one who's more entertaining, fun to be with, whose instincts they're just incredible. He's an incredible person. Obviously he's an incredible person. So I really like Trump so much. But I try to, probably don't always succeed, but I try to say exactly what I would say in private in public. I just try to be transparent, both so I don't have to keep track of different storylines or lies, and also because I just feel better. It's just good to be open about everything. I do think Pete is under attack. I love Halperin, by the way. He's really smart.
No, I know.
And
he's launching his own podcast today. It's called Up Next with Mark Halperin. And that's part of our new MK Media podcast network. Sorry, next up.
I love
it's brand new.
I didn't even know. I'm going to text him right now. But anyway, I think his analysis is totally right. There is a group, I think it's partly ideological, that would very much like to see Pete out. I'm on this, I'm of course close to Pete. I've known Pete a long time. We had the same job. I know you are as well. And so I'm strongly for Pete. But I do think that a lot of the drama at the staff level in the Pentagon, some of it's just a product of the fact the Pentagon is a snake pit, very complicated place to work. I said to Pete recently, I was like, there's no way I couldn't run that place for one day. I mean, I'm in awe of anyone who can run the Pentagon. So I think that's part of it. But there's also an ideological motive here. And Pete is sensible. He's rooted in the experience of the troops. He is, of course, loyal to the president. He understands the president's vision. And it would be a lot easier, I think, to have a crazed neoconservative senator run the Pentagon if you wanted a war with Iran. I do think that's part of it. And so I don't understand a lot of what's happening there. I do know Dan Caldwell pretty well, who's one of the aides, one of the senior aides who was fired. Yeah, and I'm completely convinced, and I think the evidence proves, that Dan Caldwell did not leak classified information to NBC News. That's a lie. I was told that by somebody who I trust, by the way, who I think was telling me the truth. He believed it also, but that was out there. Everyone heard that. He photocopied information or took a picture on his phone, texted it to this reporter at NBC, broke federal law. That's a crime to do that. Undermined the president, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's not true. He didn't do that. And moreover, not only did he not do that, there's no evidence that he did it because they never took his phone and they never polygraphed him. So the whole thing was one of those classic Washington, I think of it as like getting attacked by a swarm of bees. Like you're just going along, you're walking through the woods, and all of a sudden you step on a hive and they're just flying up your shorts. They're on you. You can't think straight. All you know is pain. And that's how they get people. Like this stuff will appear out of nowhere. All of a sudden you'll just hear so-and-so's bad. He did something really wrong. I don't know all the details, but he's done. And then the 5-minute hate begins and the person's destroyed. That's what happened to Dan Caldwell. But the question is why? It wasn't personal, because Dan Caldwell was a check against the enormous pressure that the Pentagon and the White House are receiving to engage in a war with Iran, and also to destabilize Pete. I mean, he'd worked with Pete for over 10 years. They were concerned veterans for America together, so he knew him well. And so to take away all the people that the secretary knows well and trusts and replace them with sinister lifers who are never telling the truth about anything. I do think, again, I don't have any special knowledge. This is just my outside analysis as someone who's a student of bureaucracy, the federal bureaucracy. I think that's what happened.
So after you sat with Dan Caldwell, which was a great interview and it hit last Monday, everybody should listen to it. We wound up speaking with one of the other guys who got fired, Colin Carroll. And he had a different take on it. His take was, he didn't put it in this exact way, but he said, they're having these fights with this Joe Casper, who's Pete's chief of staff. They couldn't get along with this guy. He couldn't get along with them, like pretty much all three of them. It sounded like maybe he felt threatened by them. He denies that. He says the office was running fine. Just look at the results. But they seem to say this guy was an obstacle that they were trying to get around. And I think they think he was out to get them, and he thinks they were out to get him. And they think he had a heavy hand in setting it up to look like they were the leakers. And I don't know exactly whether that's true or not, but obviously those three were walked out the door, and he was walked out of his position. He's no longer the chief of staff. But the whole thing has the unfortunate effect of making Pete's top inner circle look like it's in disarray. And I'll say this, we both like Mark a lot. So his podcast is called Next Up. It's going to premiere today. And he, I believe, has a bit of news he's going to be breaking on Pete. And it doesn't sound like it's necessarily going to be all that positive. So we'll have to tune in. Even I don't know exactly what it is. So we'll have to tune in to find out. But I'll ask you the same question I was asking there. Do you think he will survive this? Because, there are a lot of people out to get him. And you don't know, right? So far, outwardly, Trump has been saying he stands by him, but you just never know how much of this he wants to wade through.
Well, of course, I have no idea what Halpern's going to say, and he's been, as he does, actively reporting on this. I have not been, so I'm sure he knows a lot more than I do. So I don't want to get, over my skis and make yet another bad prediction, which I've done serially for 30 years. Well, Putin will never invade Ukraine. Okay, that was one of my bad predictions. But excuse me. But my sense, as of last time I was paying close attention, talking to people, is that Secretary Hegseth did have the full support of the president, and both because I think he loves Pete as a person. I know I do. He's just a good guy. And his wife was my producer, who I love, Jen. And so but I think Trump feels the same way about them. Pete has a lot of friends. People like Pete. He's a good man. But also because I don't think you want to lose a key cabinet secretary 100 days in. I don't think that's a good precedent at all.
And for what?
And for what?
It's like,
what? That's exactly
for
right.
what? Because there were staff squabbles?
Yes, exactly. No, I think it's exactly right. But here's what what Colin, I don't know Colin. I've heard he's an amazing person and a patriot and a man of bravery and integrity, and I believe all of that. And I'm sure that, staff squabbles and fights with the chief of staff, Joe Casper, played a huge role in all of this. But my specialty is on, the bigger questions, the ideological questions. And I just can't confirm, since that's the world that I live in, that there is huge pressure on a bunch of cabinet secretaries, particularly on Pete Hegseth, to go along with this war with Iran. Like, that is priority one right now for a bunch of different reasons, partly because of where American troops are on rotation in the Middle East. There happen to be a lot of them right now, partly because there's a belief that Iran's air defenses have been neutralized to some extent, and maybe for other reasons. So there's a lot of pressure right now, and so that is a factor in every big decision that's made, and I would just say that's a shame, because we have a lot of, those are all fair questions. Should we bomb Iran? Like, that's a real conversation. We should not ignore the conversation. But as you just said earlier about fentanyl, like, this country has a lot of problems, and Donald Trump was elected by grateful voters who wanted those questions to be addressed. And so I just hope, as we debate problems in other countries, we also reserve time to fix our own.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. And volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped so many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long is it going to take to get out of it, and at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.